Today, we have a very special guest, another former Nintendo coworker. This time it's Sean, who's been on the podcast before. Sean worked in the sales and retail department. We thought, what is a better time than now to pick his brain about everything to do with Switch 2 pre-orders, Switch 2 launch. What is Nintendo doing at launch for the system? What are they working on right now to make it easy for us, hopefully? Sean has the answers that we do not, so we're excited to talk to him.
This is such a great episode because out there's a lot of rumors swirling, a lot of assumptions being made about what is happening in the world of retailers. And we don't know the answers. We didn't work in sales. We didn't work in retail. So it is great that we can bring in somebody who is literally an expert at this, somebody who literally has the answers to these questions. Yeah. And we are going to get to those when we talk to him in just a few minutes.
Yeah, I think it's great because Nintendo has also been out there saying stuff like, we've seen from Q&As from Mr. Furukawa about we're going to do everything we can to combat these scalpers. We're going to do everything we can to do such and such. I feel like Sean can tell us whether or not they really are going to be doing everything they can or what can they do. So I have these questions swirling kind of in my head too. So I'm excited to talk to him and get some answers. And I think it's going to be a great discussion.
We didn't even have to ask Sean to come on.
Sean volunteered.
He volunteered himself. He said, I've got some things I want to say. I want to get out there.
He wants to drop some truth bombs on all of you because you're right. There is a lot of like random, presumptions, rumors, all these things that I think that just are out there that are actually just not true, and people just perpetuate these rumors.
For example, when a retailer has a placeholder price for the Nintendo Switch 2 that's $400, people assume, oh, it's $400. They must know. We're going to be answering that question.
Yes. Do they actually know? When do they know? Yeah, yes. Definitively. Yes. Dispel the rumors and speculations with the truth.
We have another of our old coworkers who also did the same thing and reached out and said, I got to come on soon. Mm-hmm. So this seems to be a popular thing amongst
want to get
some
stuff off their chest.
Yes, this has got some people worked up. So that one's happening in a couple of weeks. But yes, we're going to be bringing them through as much as we can until this thing comes out.
It's like, do you have something to say? I do. I really do. I need to say some stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, we are very lucky to get to say the things every week. But a lot of these people don't have the outlet to do that. So we're happy to be that for them.
It's another remote recording for us. I am still sick, but I'm getting better. That's the good news at this. After we did the episode last week, I literally lost my voice, could not talk.
It was crazy.
Could only do little squeaks and sounds. So
you were a chatbot for like 4 days.
I am on the mend. I'd say I'm like 75% better now. The last 25%, I don't know. I may have a lingering cough for some time, but I think in the next couple of days I'll be fully.
This is the danger zone where you're so sick of being sick. You know what I mean? Like you just like are wanting so badly to get better. You start to like kind of lie to yourself or trick yourself and saying like, oh yeah, I'm definitely better. I can do all the things now again. I can go out. I can be in the world again. And I'm fine. But you're not fine. And you actually can relapse, which is exactly what happened to me. So I'm telling you from my own stupidity, don't be like me. And like when you're, 75, 85% of the way there, you're like, I'm fine. I'm good now. I can do all the things. And then I relapsed and had the flu again for another 2 weeks.
Yes.
So don't let that happen to you. Rest, and just try to lay low for like a lot longer than you think.
Yes. Once again, my great health advice still stands, which is don't get the flu. Just don't get it. Your life will be a lot better.
You got the flu shot too. It didn't seem to help at all. I also got the flu shot and did not.
They're guessing. They're guessing. Those doctors are guessing. Yeah, there's a lot of versions of the flu out there. Oh well.
Too bad. Anyhow, glad to see that your voice is back though. That's exciting.
I can talk again.
I can talk. I can sing. No, you can't sing.
We had we mentioned this last week. Our super kitten Krysta of standing in line to try and get this Pokemon cards, and we thought we were about ready to wrap up that video.
Oh my gosh.
And then something dramatic happened.
Miraculous and dramatic.
I got a phone call.
Don't tell them.
Well, listen.
I'm
just saying I got a dramatic phone call, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Shut your mouth.
I know what I'm doing
here. Go
here.
back to not talking. Your liability.
I don't think you know what you're doing.
I know exactly what I'm doing.
I got a dramatic phone call that maybe changed everything. So I'm going to leave it at that. I don't know. It could have been,
I'm going to bleep this entire conversation.
Meet me at the bathroom of the McDonald's if you want to get these cards. Pow! It could have been one of those. Oh, you don't know what this was. You didn't get the phone call.
Stop talking.
Nobody's calling you.
Stop talking. This video will be out very soon. You'll get to see all the drama that ensued.
Do not miss.
Weeks of drama.
Do not miss.
It was everything that I could not have imagined and everything that I could imagine. And
I told you, get the reality show sound effects out there.
That's siren.
Because yes, that sound there's that sound effect. Everybody knows that sound effect from reality shows. Yeah. We're gonna have to use that because that was our emotion for many days on end.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something's out now is our gameplay video for Super Metroid, and coming soon is our spoiler cast for Super Metroid. I've now finished Super Metroid.
You did, yeah.
You seem to be you did that thing. You did that thing. You did that thing to me this week.
What thing?
Oh, I'm in the final area. I'm almost done. And you're still playing the game, so congratulations.
I am in the final area, and I am.
Well, you weren't in the final area about 5 days ago when you told me that.
Well, then I stopped playing because I was playing something else.
No, you weren't there.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
It wouldn't be a spoiler cast.
You shouldn't even be playing this at all. You should be sleeping and in bed. This is why you have a fever.
Really a lot of mixed messages here. I got the Super Metroid gave me the flu. Great.
Metroid.
This is another Super Nintendo era urban legend. If you play that game, you're going to get sick.
You're going to get the Metroid in your head, and you're going to get sick. The life out of you.
You got tiny Metroids coursing through your bloodstream, and they're making you sick. No, I finished it. I don't know what you're doing. You're dilly-dallying. You're lost. You're pretending to know what you're doing.
I know what
I'm doing. Something interesting I will say. So I last played that game in 2021, like I said. I played it immediately after I finished Metroid Dread. So pretty recent, last couple years, compared to the game that we played last for a spoiler cast, Metroid Prime, which I played, I don't know, when it first came out like 20 years ago.
Well, you did play like the first hour of it during the launch.
Yeah, fine.
That didn't really count.
I forgot more about Super Metroid over the last 4 years. Like, there's a lot about Metroid Prime that I still remembered. But I forgot, like, the second half of Super Metroid, I kind of forgot.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what do I do now? Where? Oh, this area. Oh, right.
I kept forgetting about the powers that you get. I was like, oh, yeah. This thing is in the game. I was like, oh, that's right.
The Metroid powers that you get in literally every Metroid game?
No, but then I didn't know that some of them were already in. I was like, that can't have had. That power up can't have been in this early of a Metroid game. For some reason, I was like, wait, what? Oh, okay.
Now you've got Metroids coursing through your blood.
Making me forgetful.
Making you forgetful.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's messing with my brain.
Gosh.
Yeah. I definitely, I played this game, I didn't play it all the way through, but I did play it pretty recently too. Like 2 years or 3 years ago, I definitely like dabbled again in this game.
Okay.
But there are definitely things that I remember and definitely things that I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that this was in this Metroid game. I don't know. I'm getting them, maybe I'm getting them kind of mixed up or something, but
okay.
I'm almost done.
There's a number of them, yeah.
I believe to be the final power up, unless there's one that I forgot, and I am in the last area.
Okay.
I think I'm like an hour from the end. So unless the final boss, I can't remember the final boss fight was easy or hard or medium. I asked you yesterday and you refused to answer me. So thanks for nothing. I asked you, I was like, do you think I'll have a hard time with it? And you were like,
wouldn't be much of a spoiler cast if I just told you what to do every which way.
I didn't want you to tell me what to do. I asked you if you think it would be hard for me.
It's not a spoiler-free zone until you finish the game, so you better get there.
Oh my gosh.
If you can.
Not helpful. Rewind.
No, we're going to record that as soon as we're able to get back together so we can give it the proper treatment. And this month, two months of Metroid coming out of the gate, 2025. Look at that. I'm going to say next month's game, not going to be a Metroid game.
No.
We got to get into some other stuff.
We have to, decide too.
Yes. And we're about to get into our great interview with Sean, our former coworker from Nintendo. But first, this episode is sponsored by Quince.
Yay! I've been so excited for the sponsor.
We love all our sponsors around here, but you literally did a dance of joy when we got confirmed for that Quince sponsorship.
I did, because I'm a huge fan of Quince. I already have like so many pieces, so many clothing pieces by Quince, and I was like so jazzed that they were going to be sponsoring this episode of the podcast.
Oh, jazzed!
Yay!
Listen, we all like the good things in life, and even though we enjoy a little luxury from now and then, it doesn't mean we can't always afford it. Until we discovered Quince, and they are our go-to for luxury essentials at affordable prices.
Yes.
And guess what? We might be wearing some of that stuff right now.
Our beautiful items right now. I'm wearing this really comfortable sweater. It's so cold out, so this is like warm. The thing I love about Quince, though, is that they have like really high quality materials that they use in their clothing that are actually like really expensive, like cashmere or wool or silk. Like those are high quality materials that you want for your clothes. But if you buy it from like a brand name, they will like mark it up like crazy. Like a cashmere sweater is so expensive, but you know, from Quince you can get these really nice material items for like a fraction of the cost, and they're such good quality. You know, I've had so many Quince items I have worn, I've washed, I've done all sorts of things in them, and they're like perfect still from like the day I got it. So
and I have this corduroy, heavy shirt, light jacket, whatever you want to call it. Very comfortable, very warm, really great. And yeah, like you were saying, like Quince partners directly with these top factories, and they're cutting out the middleman, and they're passing the saving on to you, which is wonderful stuff. So give yourself the luxury you deserve with Quince. Go to quince.com/KitandKrysta for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns, otherwise known as a year.
Wow.
That's QUINCE.com/KitandKrysta to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Again, quince.com/KitandKrysta.
We'll put the link right over here along with the QR code that you can scan, and also in the description below.
All right, without further ado, here's Sean.
So we are all very curious. We have a lot of questions about what is it actually going to be like when Switch 2 is finally launched, when it's in the store, when it's, in retail. What is that going to be like? We actually don't know the answer to that because we didn't work in those departments at Nintendo, but we did bring someone here that has those answers. Welcome to Sean.
Welcome back, Sean.
Yes, welcome back, Sean.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
It's good to be back.
Sean, you were on the retail team at Nintendo, so we thought, what better person to bring on to answer all of these burning questions from people and ourselves than you? Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Yeah, sure.
And we were chatting about this before, because we know like kind of the sales and retail operation at Nintendo. There was just, straight sales, there was retail marketing, but we were like, we think Sean was on a thing called retail strategy. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, actually, I was across a lot of things. So I initially started in the retail marketing. And then, we were kind of adjusting, and this was during the Wii U days. And, I think there was a lot of pivots and adjustments that needed to be done during those days. And so then I moved over more onto the strategy side of things. And that's where I spent the majority of my time.
What's the difference between...
What is retail strategy?
Yeah, what is the difference between the teams?
Talk to us like we're three.
Yeah. So the marketing, which I think is probably the easiest to define, is, think about when you're in a GameStop, and, if you've been in a GameStop, there's posters all over the store. And so retail marketing is negotiating for those placements and ensuring that like those posters are built. Like, what do we want to show on the posters? Like, what key art do we have? Timing for things like, we want to be, on the big poster in time for pre-orders to go up and things like that. If you're in a Walmart and there's a big pallet, retail marketing is handling all of that type of stuff.
Okay.
Retail strategy. Yes, danglers, shelf talkers. Yeah.
Oh,
Violators was always the one. I'm like, that sounds bad. Like,
dangler sounds kind of bad too. Sounds like you have a booger coming out of your nose.
Well, and danglers and violators are kind of the same. So neither name is good. but yeah, so that was retail marketing. Retail strategy, I did a lot of different things when I was on the retail strategy side. Some of it was coordinating like promotions and promotional plans. Some of it was a lot of it, a lot more than I actually care for, was dealing with budgets. Shifting money
Mm.
from here to here. We have some left over here. Like, how can we utilize this, and things such as that. So more of the nuts and bolts, down to like the planning and plotting.
And then as far as working directly with, the capital S sales team, like how often were you doing that, and like what were those conversations typically?
Um, Fairly regularly, certain times a year, a lot more than others. There was always, check-ins on like, what budgets looked like, where maybe we could be spending some more money, where we should be spending less, where we could maybe look for some sort of partnership to do more with what we had. But then in advance of the holidays, things always got really more intense. Wanting to make sure, like, where do we need to, quarter end was one thing, but like coming up on the holidays was always a really busy time for those of us in strategy and sales. And so as we were getting close to the end of the summer, things would really start picking up. And it was like E3's done. Everybody's had their plans. Well, E3's done in a lot of ways now, isn't it? But the teams would be back from E3, have met with their retailer, shared what the lineup is going to be, and that's when it's like, okay, let's plan for what the holidays are going to look like, and where can we, if we have limited allocation, like where's the best place to put that allocation, so that we can make sure that like this retailer is good at getting product into people's hands, this one not so much. This guy had somebody in Canada leak a price that we didn't like, or
Yeah.
there's a lot of considerations to who got what, and how, and by the end of the summer, all of that was known, and we were deep into making the plans.
Is there anything you would say sets kind of the sales organization at Nintendo apart from other companies, whether it's like a mentality or just kind of the way that they approach the business? Like, in so many other ways, Nintendo's like, yeah, we like to think differently. Does that also apply to how they do sales?
Yes, yeah, actually, and I was at first very surprised, because like I came to Nintendo from a very different world. I came from the consumer packaged goods business, and that is, you're fighting for every penny. The retailers are brutal, and even like internally, sales teams were like, stepping over each other, because it's like, if I don't hit my quota, then like I'm not going to get the bonus that I want to get, or that trip to Hawaii. Um, Nintendo didn't. They recognized that from time to time they wouldn't have enough product to go around, and they would have to prioritize where they place that product. And so the sales teams weren't incentivized to load up a retailer, any retailer, with as much product as they could. Like, whereas, I remember working in CPG, it was a canned food company. They would, like, before the end of the quarter, they would have tractor trailers essentially pulling up, outside distribution centers for like a Walmart, let's say, so that they could make their number for the quarter. And Nintendo would never ever do that. They don't want to have inventory where it shouldn't be, or too much inventory, because part of the problem with that, and any brand that's conscious of their brand doesn't want an abundance of product just lingering, collecting dust on the shelves. The retailers
Mm.
don't want it either, even more so probably. And then that's when you start seeing like these crazy discounts and these weird random bundles that a retailer will create. Like, whoever thought of putting those two things together? It's like, well, no one, but the retailer has a ton of it filling up their warehouses, and they need to get rid of this product, and so they're going to do what they're going to do to get rid of that product. But yeah, I think Nintendo did a really good job to make sure that nobody felt like they needed to load up a retailer with product. It was very smart, like how things were allocated.
Yeah, from
And
our from our perspective, like on the outside of the sales and retail team, it always felt like there was never enough product to go around. It was
there
more,
often wasn't. And that was another
yeah,
thing about Nintendo. It's like they often seemed unconcerned about they would rather have the right amount of product than too much. And
right. They're pretty conservative, like even beyond hardware. I remember things like, special editions, or we talked about when it was the 10-year anniversary of Amiibo, like that. I'm sure you
oh
remember
god,
that. Yeah, that nightmarish
the
situation of,
launch of Amiibo was such a frustrating nightmare
yeah.
for internally, because like first of all nobody knew like how, I mean, yeah, people had ideas of how popular these things were going to be, but
Yeah.
like you couldn't really be sure. And like coming up with a forecast for something, it's like, well, there's not really a good analog out there. Like how much are we going to sell?
Hmm.
And then I remember that was like when there was problems with the dock workers in a lot of the major ports. And so like
Yeah,
I think that there were a good amount of amiibos just hanging out on a boat like
I remember
outside
that.
of Seattle or the
Yeah, we're like,
Oakland
how do
port,
we
or
get it off the dock? Should we just go
and
down there
not be,
ourselves?
and not being able to say anything.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, it
like
was
it's
tough.
like we can't get involved in like those negotiations, or
Right,
but at
yeah.
the same time it's like, but well,
We're
yeah,
hiring
guys.
Steven Seagal. He's going in a ghillie suit. He's going to get those amiibos. Uh,
Yeah.
Before we move over to some of the Switch 2 topics, we'll go to our first question from Patreon. This is a good one. This is from Hoots, who asks, with the rise of digital media, did you ever feel the pressure or fear of having someone above you cut the retail team entirely?
Yes, 100%.
Oh,
I saw the writing on the wall. I worked for, not only did I work for Nintendo, I worked for another uh, company in the video game business, and they made a decision actually while I was there on the retail marketing team, which means I was part of the team that was conveying this information to retailers. Um, this company decided to stop selling full game download gift cards. Or the you could go into a at one time you could go into a GameStop or a Walmart and buy like you know The Last of Us, and it was on like it was a digital version of the game. It was a way that they could sell digital games in retail stores. And so this company decided that we're not going to do that anymore. We have, you know, gift cards that are, dollar value that you can load into our storefront and download whatever game you want. And for people that don't want to buy a physical game, they should buy the currency cards rather than a download card. And look, from a business perspective, it made all the sense in the world. Like you could have a $70 gift card that somebody could purchase and download a game, or you could have that game for that card for Last of Us that eventually is going to get old and kind of like scuffed up and not looking so nice. And, maybe Last of Us is probably not a good example, but, imagine another game where, it's not selling as well. And then like you've got these cards that are just sitting there taking up space. But from a retail marketing perspective, my thought was like, that's a pretty clear shot across the bow that like eventually games are going digital, and you're not going to be selling them, Mr. Walmart. Like you're going to be selling the currency card. Um, and as any anyone with retail strategy experience, maybe, I could see the writing on the wall. And look, we're not there yet, but I don't think it's very far off. Where these the hardware is going to be sold less and less in the stores and more direct from their sites. And PlayStation has a PlayStation Direct site. You can purchase hardware directly from Nintendo. And everything's an Xbox, so whatever you have, like you can, play Xbox, right? So, yeah, I do think that eventually there's going to like, the console world is going to be more like the PC world, where like you don't go to a store to buy a PC game anymore. It's all digital, and
Yeah.
there's downsides, especially for collectors, but there's also a lot of convenience. And I do think that it forces retail or console makers to think about the Krista owns her library digitally with me. There's a lot of value in that, right? But only value if it goes to the next console.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
And so, if they launch Switch 2, and gosh, I hope they don't say this, but say like, you're buying all of those games all over again. Or, like we're going to port Mario Kart 8 for the, however many time, like to get to the next console so you can buy it again. And people will buy it again. But I think doing that, you lose the value of being able to take your digital library with you. And so that's, I think, where the industry is going. It's going to be, you'll buy your consoles directly from the manufacturers and the games directly on those consoles. And retail might be a showroom, but those displays in retail are hard to maintain. And they get beaten up. Like I can't tell you, every time I'm in a Target and I see like a little kid just hammering away on the Joy-Cons on lace, like
Oh
those
gosh.
are some extra sturdy Joy-Cons, I think, because like I don't know how those things survive. But
Getting sticky and disgusting.
oh yeah, they're so gross. And when I was at that other console manufacturer, they had the VR headset. I was like, who would put
Ew.
a VR headset
Oh,
on?
No. I draw the line.
Like, yeah,
pink eye.
no.
You're gonna get
No.
pink eye. Gross.
Yeah, that always seemed a little gross to me.
Let's get into these Switch 2 questions. And just start with one of the big questions, which is like, there's so much anxiety around the supply. Nintendo said, hey, we know, like, we're going to do our best to get as many of these out there. And, none of us work at Nintendo anymore, but I think, we can kind of apply what we've seen and understand in the past and kind of read between the lines. Do you believe them when they are trying to put out these comforting statements saying, yeah, we're doing our best to have a lot out there?
I believe they believe them.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
No, I think that, like, look, it's in their interest to try and figure this out. It's incredibly difficult. I have some thoughts on things that they can do and things that I'd like to see them do. And there's even like a pretty far out thought that like I think would be really neat if they did. Yes, I think that they are, they have the luxury of having seen like what the PlayStation 5 launch looked like, with like incredibly short supply, really high demand, and further complicated by people not even being able to get out of the house in a lot of instances. And all of the past launches that Nintendo's had. Look, Nintendo is a company that doesn't look at the other companies as probably as often as those other companies look at Nintendo, right?
Yeah.
And so they're of course going to come up with their own solution. I do think that they will take some steps. I don't know that all of them would work. I would imagine that they'll probably do some stuff related to, if you're buying directly from them, they can control the experience a lot more. The pre-orders don't make as much sense to me with software anymore, because like, what are you pre-ordering? But hardware, I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think that if they're smart, they'll have a plan for taking pre-orders to judge what the allocation is, but they're going to need to know that it's a real pre-order and not, just somebody that's planning on, they've created 15 different accounts to try and scam the pre-orders. So I think they'll tie the pre-orders to your Nintendo Online account. They'll either prioritize it or require it. And I think that's one way. It's like, you can only have so many, I guess somebody could create a Nintendo Online account, but then that severs the, passing on your past library. I think what would be really cool is if they came up with some way to, when they're doing the distribution, if you pre-ordered, Krysta pre-orders, through them, or they work with Amazon or something, when that Switch 2 arrives for Krysta, it's already preloaded with the games that she selected.
Oh, that's cool. I would love that.
I think that would make people, like, if they don't have a Nintendo Online account, sign up for one. It's not that much money. You're probably going to want it for, especially if Mario Kart is one of the launch games, you're going to want it anyway, right? But they'll drive signups for their account. They'll be able to verify that these are real pre-orders, and they might even be able to do some sort of surprise and delight where your console shows up with you can go online and check a box, or just the software that you purchased at launch is already pre-installed. So
yeah, that's
you
so
open
cool.
it up and,
out of the box, you can have you can play and you can just have that nice clean.
Yeah, because I mean, like, like we've all heard those stories, right? Christmas morning, kids open up and the reality of where gaming is now is like there's always going to be software updates, right? So like, what if
Patches,
it was
yeah.
already ready to go right when you
Hmm.
take it out of the box?
Yeah.
I
Now,
think that
now
could be
you're
interesting.
referring to something Nintendo would do specifically selling through their channel, which they didn't have for a lot of these previous hardware launches, right? Like when it
Yeah,
comes to other retailers, we've always hinted at this. Maybe you can speak to this more. It's like, where is the line drawn as far as how much Nintendo can talk to these other retailers about, hey, why don't you think about doing this or that?
I think that you're right in hinting that it's a very very fine line. Nintendo is going to give the product like, look, you know, Walmart, Target, they're experts at reaching their customers. So I don't think Nintendo would be in a position to we wouldn't have tried to tell them what to do. But I can imagine, maybe not with all of the retailers, but um, having conversations of like, hey, how can we help? Like, what can we do together? Um, and I think, the supply chains for these retailers is so smart and so decentralized now that I think if the retailers were interested in it would not be a small amount of work. It would be probably pretty sizable. But if they were interested, I think Nintendo would be able to find a partner that they could work on um, some new kind of distribution method where like it might take a little bit longer, like they'll have to have checks in place. Maybe not every single target is going to be able to handle this, but like a ship to store kind of situation where Nintendo is going straight from uh their distribution center to specific stores at Target where like you can follow your order all the way through the chain and like pick up your device there. um
In the, in the past, when that example of Nintendo offering to help, did you find that the retailers were open to that, or were they like, yeah, we got this, we're good?
Um, I did not have those conversations as much with Nintendo as I did with other companies, and I think yes, the retailers um, were interested. Like I don't know that they were always as interested as maybe we would want them
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah,
There's
that's
always some level of interest. It's like how difficult is this going to be for me?
right.
Like once it starts getting too hard, it's like, well, yeah, maybe
We're not
it's not
incentivized.
worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, because Nintendo, a company like Nintendo or PlayStation or Microsoft, um, they're concerned about the consumer experience, using the product and getting the product. I think the retailers are very concerned about the shopping experience, but like once you get what you're looking for from them, I don't know that they care as much like beyond that. And so, having somebody have a great experience opening the box at home, from ordering it to opening it at home, that's something Nintendo is going to be very interested in. Something maybe less so that Amazon is interested in.
And also from the retailer's perspective, like our, sort of our perspective and our what we've noticed for past launches or past products that are very in high demand is like they get a certain allocation. It might not be as much as they wanted in the first place, so they're limited in, right? It never is. They're going to sell through of it no matter what. Like their sort of priority is just selling through it. They know they can do that. So why would they be incentivized to make that experience better for the end consumers? Like they're going to sell through. It's going to be from their perspective. The product
It'll
Yeah.
will
be a
sell.
hot product,
Yeah.
Yeah,
sold out.
and you're dead on, and that's why I say like depending on what it is and the level of effort for the retailer, their level of interest will vary. Now, if it's a major product launch, that they know people are going to be coming into the stores to get, I think that there are ways that you can make that seem more appealing to the retailer.
Mhm.
Like if it were me, I would be having conversations of like, think about the amount of foot traffic that's going to be coming into your
Yeah.
store. Your store sells a lot of other things. Like if it's a Walmart or a Target, like you have a grocery store there, like, your electronics section is always in the back of the store. So that means you're getting foot traffic all the way through your store. Like, look, we can bring the people in and they're going to have to go through one of your cash registers anyway. So like maybe that's a good opportunity for you to sell some more stuff. So if it's a pre-order and pick up in store, the retailer is going to be a lot more interested in making sure that that's a good experience and a place where people are, I want to go pre-order from this retailer because they're going to have a better experience, or I'm more likely to actually get the product. And so that's where the sales and the strategy teams come into play, is like you've got to sell the retailer on this approach too.
Yeah, totally.
Let's go to another question from Patreon. This one's from Kyle LaBeouf. It's a big one. How does Nintendo determine how to allocate to each retailer? Wow.
Fight to the death in the sales team. There's like magic 8 balls, right? No, look, there's a lot of history in terms of, where people are buying products. So it's looking at past sales to, predict what the future is going to look like. It's knowing, the consumer, that typically shops at those retailers. You would imagine when you're launching a console, you're going to get a fairly high amount of like, people that are more tech savvy, more interested in having the new and the early adopters. And so you're probably going to see that more at a Best Buy and a GameStop or an Amazon than you would at a Target or a Walmart maybe. And so if you think especially like the launch lineup, if it's going to be a pretty varied lineup, they usually are, but like if Metroid Prime 4 is one of the titles, you may think like, okay, that's going to pull a bit more of the less of the family, more of the gamer crowd, and so like let's make sure that we've got inventory in these retailers that skew more towards that audience. Or if it launched with a Mario Party and a 3-4 Switch or something like that, then like you'd probably lean more towards a Target and a Walmart, more of the family experience. And you have to think of it that way. You have to be cognizant though that like with Nintendo, like I said, it's going to be a broad lineup, and so like it's going to be popular and people are going to be running to get it wherever they can get it. So like you can't just put all of your eggs in one or two baskets, right? But
and building on that, now that they have their own channel and they can sell directly, do you have any thoughts on like how much of that pie they could say we're keeping this for ourselves? And is there like a line after which the retailers are going to get, you're just calling your own number here?
Well, I mean, like Nintendo has the advantage if they know what the total number is, right? And nobody else does. So they could, tell Walmart and Amazon and Target, like, you're getting this much. They don't know what percentage that is of the overall total. I mean, if I were Nintendo, like, I would want to make sure I can fulfill all the pre-orders that I took. Obviously, like, you don't want an issue on your own site. So, and what those pre-orders are. So, you would have some sort of cutoff period, and like by this date, we'll give ourselves some buffer, and that's the allocation that we're going to sell on our site. They don't want to be in a situation where they have like a bunch of inventory and nobody else does, because then, even though Walmart didn't know what that total number was, like if Walmart and everybody is sold out and, Mr. Nintendo is still selling on their website, like that's not a great look either. Right. But they'll definitely give themselves a good portion, enough to ensure that like they can cover the pre-orders that they have. Now, how they drive pre-orders on their website, because there's a lot more people going to an Amazon or a Walmart.com than is going to Nintendo. That could change things. So like, they could have the best experience, but they're just not getting nearly as much traffic as, the more traditional retailers are getting. And so they'll have to allocate by that.
Yeah. I feel like this is going to be a different thing for them. They've never done this before. You know, they've never had the ability to have their own like storefront
Hmm.
to sell, you know, hardware. This will be their first time. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. You know, we keep going back to that weird launch for Alarmo late last year, where they
Hmm.
had like a very interesting pre-order sort of method where they had, you know, people like you were saying, people with these Nintendo accounts were had the ability to pre-order, and then they released it to everybody else for sale like months later, or you can go into the Nintendo store in New York, one location, one brick and mortar location to purchase. And we kept thinking like, could that be a test for, you know, what they plan to do for Switch 2? You know, like maybe they do have a way to now control that consumer experience and, you know, meet another goal of driving their NSO subscriptions.
Hmm.
So that possibly could have
If
been a way they were testing, like, does this work? Are people mad? Can we fulfill these orders? How does it work? What is the logistics here? So I can see that happening with their
yeah,
own supply.
I could see that, and even if it wasn't an intentional test, if somebody's not looking at that information and that data, like they're dropping the ball.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to bet that it was an intentional test, that they, they did this to kind of say, like, let's see how it
Yeah.
works. Um, but like I said, even if it wasn't intentional, there's still really good data there that, like,
Right.
they can get an idea of how to improve things. And look, we've known about the console for only a little while internally. Like, there are various teams that have known about it for much longer, and I'm sure have been planning for it. The retail, I don't think, like, my teams, unless things have changed differently, the team that I was on, we didn't. I wouldn't have known about this. I didn't learn about the Switch until much later than your team did.
Yeah.
Um, but like, once we learned about it, like, you could almost connect the dots of, like, oh, well, those questions that so and so was asking a couple of months ago, like, now
I
I
get
get
it
it.
now.
Like, yeah,
I
yeah.
get it
um
now.
yeah, so
Yeah.
Speaking of who knows what, a thing that's happening a lot now is like some retailer will have some listing like, oh, Switch 2, $400, and people will be like, oh, confirmed. Like,
yeah.
what do the retailers know at this
Nothing.
point in the game?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Thank you.
We
Certainly
wanted
not
to
price.
dispel that myth.
Certainly not price. Almost certainly not any kind of launch date other than maybe a quarter. um
Yeah.
and yeah, it always makes me laugh, like, to see these articles like, oh, well, you know Walmart Canada says the price is going to be this. I'm like, Walmart Canada, like, the last people that are going to know anything about price. And yeah, like, at the other company that I work for, like, the marketing team, like, one of my clients was, or one of my accounts was Walmart, and there was a period where the team in Canada, like, they were putting their thoughts out there, and the brand teams were like, Walmart Canada is leaking again, and it's like, dude, they're guessing. It's not leaking. Like, don't react to it, and, like, it's not a leak. It's just a guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, like, no, they don't have that information. There's no way that even, like, Target in the US would know anything. Nobody is going to know anything until, like, we'll know the launch date. Like, when we all know the launch date, that's probably when the retailers are going to know the launch date. And
Yeah.
I mean, maybe like a week or two in
April
advance of that,
2nd.
but, like,
April
April 2nd.
2nd during that Nintendo Direct is when we will all know, and then
Collectively.
Yeah.
collectively
And,
we'll
and
know.
and I would imagine maybe March 27th the retailers will find out.
Yeah, yeah.
A
Just so you can
random date, like,
set up their pre-orders and stuff.
yes, a couple
Exactly.
days in advance of
Right.
the world knowing is when the retailers are going to know. So, like,
Yeah.
anything, anything that you see now, it's safe to assume that you've got an overzealous employee that's really into the gaming space and wants to feel like, they're cool or important. I don't really understand why people. I don't understand the mentality to leak things,
Yeah,
because,
us
like,
either.
Like
It's a liability.
you're not getting any personal fame out of it. You're not getting any compensation out of it. It's just like, I
Exactly.
guess for yourself to feel like I did that. Like
But then as soon as
I
you're wrong, you just get like blasted.
yeah,
So
but
there
nobody
is no
remembers when they're
gain from
wrong.
this,
Like,
right?
it's like the predictor that always, forecaster that always comes up with some like wild, crazy prediction. Like you don't remember when they're wrong, but when they're right, you're like, oh my God,
That's a good
that
point.
person they knew it. And like, yeah. So.
Yeah, crazy stuff.
At the top of this, you said you had some theories and ideas about how Nintendo could roll out this launch, how they could execute this launch. So we're just gonna lean back and let you cook on these.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of alluded to it before that no brand wants to see product lingering and getting old, and they want it to seem exciting and new. And I'm sure with Switch hardware, of course, that's the Switch 2 hardware, of course, is going to be great. It can't help but be, because the Switch is just such a runaway success. And at least from what we've seen so far, Nintendo's like, we're not going crazy here, right? Like it's not the Switch U. It doesn't have like anything, at least on the surface, that seems like wildly different. Now I'm sure that they've got some cool stuff baked in, but it seems like Nintendo is you know doing the like, let's give them more of what
Yeah.
they want.
Iterative approach. Yes.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be too worried about hardware uh, sitting on the shelves. I think that's a safe bet, unless the pricing comes in like absurdly high, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case either. What I think they could potentially be concerned about is some of the things that come along with launch. Like, there's always an inevitable, you know, bevy of software launch titles that, like any other time, like you're not selling that game. But when somebody's looking for, like, that second or third game to go along with their new hardware, they tend to be a little bit more open to trying new things, especially like, you know, I thought like ARMS was interesting when it came out, and it certainly had enough interest that I think, a lot of people were like, I might jump into this and see what it's all about. But like, as a retail strategy person, my concern would be like like how long is that game going to continue to sell? And I think Nintendo would be looking at their launch, not so much setting their launch based on like, when are the duds gonna be done, but they they will be cognizant that retailers might start getting itchy to create weird bundles,
Mhm.
or just discount product. And so I think that they would want the console and everything that goes with it to launch with enough time that, if Walmart created some crazy Black Friday bundle with hardware and 3-4 Switch and legs, um, then then like Nintendo wouldn't be too, it's like, yeah, of course, Nintendo doesn't dictate the price. The retailers are going to sell it for what they're going to sell it for. And if the retailer wants to sell something at a loss, that's totally on them. Nintendo's not going to help them with that. But from a branding perspective, you don't want to see your product like with a bunch of random pack-ins that nobody can really figure out unless you're in retail strategy, and it's like, oh, they just must have a ton of
Mhm.
3-4 Switch
It's
in
like
their
it's like a
warehouse.
perception kind of thing versus it being like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think, and like, hold on to your seats, because this is where it's going to get really, crazy. I, they're going to want they're going to want the system to be out before the end of the summer.
Yeah.
I would say probably, like, if it were me, I would say at the start of the summer,
That's what I thought too.
end of school year, so you got kids in school talking about what they're excited for the summer, making plans to, you know, play Mario Kart and do all of that type of stuff. But I think we'll see a June a June launch.
Yeah.
I'm thinking probably mid June, maybe a little bit later than that,
Yeah.
but definitely before the end of the summer. That thing's coming out. And look, I'm not, I realize that that's not super crazy. I think most people are probably thinking before the end of the summer, but like there's good strategic reasons why, like, that would at least be part of the consideration set.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are still thinking holiday because they're very like, like sitting in that tradition thing. It's like, oh, if it doesn't launch in March, which is when Switch 1 launched, it must be launching at holiday because that's when every console
Mm,
launches. But see, I agree with you. I always thought that
I,
it was going to be a summer launch as well.
I would. I mean, I think if it launches for holiday, that means something wasn't ready. I
Yeah.
think you want it out well before holiday so that like, look, you talk about like what can they do to get retailers on board? Launching in the summer so that retailers can create crazy bundles and instead of the retailer just getting 3.99 or 3.50, whatever the thing sells for, the retailer can, hopefully there's some scarcity. Like when I say hopefully on the retailer side, um, I'm Mr. Walmart now. I would want there to be some level of scarcity so that I can create, I can throw in another Joy-Con and some sort of charging dock or something like that, like some, unnecessary thing that you can, probably pick up. Walmart can pick up for like $5 and, make it seem like, well, this is a $35 pack in or something like that.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
that's, and if it launches during the holiday, like, they're not doing the pack-ins. They're just getting people to
To
when they're
buy the
getting people in
thing.
the stores anyway, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I you heard it here. It's mid-June.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is
Like,
sometimes some talk of like, good or bad times of year to do this, and there's the precedent of a lot of these come out in the holidays. Obviously, with the Switch, that was very unusual, the original Switch, for that to launch in March. Do you recall that, like, was there much hand-wringing about that of like, oh, it's kind of a weird time of year, or was it just like, we're confident, this is a great product, it doesn't matter, people are going to want it?
I don't remember hearing anybody concerned at all about the timing in March.
Yeah.
I
I don't
think
either.
you know I do remember having conversations about like once we started planning for the holidays, what things would look what it would look like, and it wasn't a there there wasn't the at that time there was no Mario Kart Black Friday bundle, which I think they did for about 4 years
I
after.
think it was more than
But yeah,
that.
so it was like I think we knew that we would most likely be selling the hardware is going to be the big draw, and then like whatever retailers can want to do with it, like have at it. But um, from my perspective, the March launch, I looked at it exactly what I described. Like that's going to make it much easier to have conversations in the holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On price, again, a lot of people have kind of rallied around this $400 price point of like, yeah, this feels like a realistic thing that would work in a lot of different ways. I'm gonna ask you kind of a different question. It's like, what do you think is like the upper boundary of where Nintendo would really be pushing its luck based on what we've seen this hardware to be? And they've already acknowledged the Nintendo customer is more price conscious, more family oriented, and all of that.
I I can't imagine it being too much more than 400. I think just with their audience, maybe 450, I would say like, is probably the highest that I can imagine. That's without knowing like what type of tech is built into it. But like, look, I'm sure they're using NVIDIA chips. And it'll just be the next iteration of the current Switch chip. Um, NVIDIA's probably moved on like 3 or 4 times
Yeah,
past
they
that,
have.
right? So like they're not using the newest chip, nor should they. Like I don't look,
They don't need
Nintendo
to.
games look
Yeah.
great. Yeah, like if they can keep things, in a true HD at a solid frame rate, their art style is it just it they're masters at making things look amazing, without having to have like something that can launch a rocket ship.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. Like I've heard a lot of people speculating whether it's going to have an OLED screen in it. I don't think it will.
I don't
I
think it
think it's
will.
going to. Yeah, I think it's going to be. They're going to make the trade-offs that they know that they can at launch to hit a price point, and I think that price point, the ceiling is 399.99. Um,
Yeah.
I think we could see something at 350. I doubt it. I think it's going to be 499, and then the original Switch OLED stays at 350. But I could see, them eliminating the non OLED original Switch and doing a Switch Lite, OLED Switch, and then Switch 2.
Switch 2. And then later on,
And
they can sell you a Switch 2 OLED. And a Switch.
exactly. Yeah,
So
at
then,
400. So maybe the Switch 2 is non-OLED and 350. The Switch OLED is 299, and then the Switch Lite is where the Switch Lite is. I think they'll want to stay within like the boundaries of where they are. But
yeah.
I think they could go up to 400, and it wouldn't surprise me at all.
So let's stay on this thread of Switch 2 and the original Switch. Nintendo's never done a price drop on any of the original Switch versions. What do they need to start doing with that generation? You know, you've got a clear space and the inventory. Like, when do you see being the right time for a price drop? Just how does that transition work?
I mean, it's not going to happen right. I don't think it'll happen right at launch. I think that like, if the old one doesn't see a price drop at launch, there's less appeal for somebody to go to the old one. And it's like, well, the new one just seems cheaper because the old one is still 350, and that's why I think Switch 2 is 399. Because they'll look like I can get the Switch OLED for 350, or I can get like a bigger screen and faster processor for $50 more. Like that seems like an easy trade up. I think eventually, once the Switch 2 is kind of humming along and they've got plenty of games, don't be surprised if Black Friday comes around and you can get an OLED Switch for like a smoking good deal.
Yeah.
$200 maybe, 250 or something like that, and then that price just stays low from then on. That's probably that's what I would be guessing is.
Yeah. So like within Switch 2's first holiday, probably we'll see.
By Switch 2's first holiday, the old Switch I think is going to be at a new low price.
Yeah. Yeah, that would make sense, because then you would, if it comes out in the summer, like we were all thinking, you have 4 or 5 months sort of to get through to the holiday time. The stuff is going. Your launch window games have come out, and then retailers are doing their holiday bundles with Switch 2, and then they also have a really attractive price for OLED Switch or Switch Lite. I mean, that just makes sense.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if inventory of the old Switch starts getting a little bit harder to find. Like, you're going to start going into stores and seeing fewer and fewer of them.
Right.
That will be, of course, by design. They're not going to be shipping a ton of them because they don't want
confusion.
They don't want confusion, but they also don't want necessarily somebody to say like, I'll take the cheaper one. Like, certainly, like if that's all they're going to buy, that's all they're going to buy, and Nintendo's happy to have that. But like the focus is like, we want the new thing to be the big deal. And
you want people to start to transition in their brain to the new generation.
Yeah.
Here's our last question for Patreon. This is very relevant to this launch too. What's the deal with Amazon and Nintendo's relationship? Any idea what it's like to be the Amazon rep at Nintendo? Obviously, right now, a lot of Nintendo items are not officially stocked in Amazon. Like, what's going on here?
Oh, I didn't know. So, for the record, it's been a long time since I was at Nintendo. When did I leave? 2018, I think, or 2017 is when I left. So it's been a long time. But I will say, when I first started at Nintendo, one of the accounts that I worked with was Amazon. And this was during the 3DS days. And there was a period where you could not buy anything Nintendo direct from Amazon. And that was, it sounds like what's going on now. There was an inability to come to an agreement on philosophically on some things. And Amazon may have said, well, what if we just didn't sell your product? And Nintendo may have said, what if?
Wow.
And I remember thinking like, whoa, that's pretty badass.
We're playing this game of chicken.
And I remember thinking, I'm glad my bonus isn't tied to any type of like quota of like what we're selling in.
If anything, you should be paid more for having to deal with it.
Right? Yeah, for the stress. I mean,
The
it
drama.
quickly became no stress. But the the really interesting thing, and like I hope Amazon is listening. We did not see sales decrease.
Oh.
Oh,
People went to Walmart and Target and GameStop.
that's what they're
Like,
doing now. Yeah.
yeah. And look,
Yeah.
that was, that was the 3DS. I think it was before the Wii U
Yeah.
started. But like, that wasn't exactly the heydays of Nintendo. I mean, it was a little
It was all
depressing
right,
at
but
the
it wasn't the
time. Like,
Switch. It was in the Switch
yeah,
generation where people
certainly
are
not,
like
certainly not.
falling over
And
themselves to get anything Nintendo puts out.
yeah, and like my guess is that like if there is some sort of disagreement going on right now, like I actually honestly wasn't even aware, um, but I would bet that sometime between now and April 2nd, they're able to come to an agreement on some
Maybe
things.
incentivized to come to an
Yeah,
agreement
yeah,
and just maybe just
um,
just give in to Nintendo this time.
yeah. Look, they were able to repair the relationship and come to a meeting in the minds. Previously, I have no
Yeah,
doubt that they'll be able to figure it out again.
exactly.
And now, like, there's some pretty good incentive, at least on the retailer side, for figuring
Yeah,
things out. Like if because I could see them being a really big part of the launch,
yeah,
just with their distribution capabilities. They could be huge, and maybe they're trying to play that. I don't know. Like it wouldn't surprise me. Nothing surprises me with Amazon. They're a pretty big retailer, and they know it, and they're often not afraid to kind of test limits of past relationships
yeah.
because they know what they can offer as well. So
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. It's like two big sticks
yeah,
fighting in
exactly.
a room.
Yeah.
Wow, this was
This
awesome.
was great.
I learned so much from you
Yeah.
today. I
Well,
feel a little bit more nervous, honestly, because I feel like, yeah, it just reminds me of how Nintendo just operates in such an interesting, unique way, and sometimes they kind of refuse to they're a little rigid at times, and I hope that they are really like understanding demand and making steps and pushing the limits to make this a good experience for all of us. All three of us are now
mhm.
consumers and fans of Nintendo. Like, I think all three of us are day one Switch 2. We want to get that new system day one, and I would like to have a good experience. I would like to not punch someone out for a Switch at a Costco
Yeah,
if
yeah.
possible.
I'm absolutely day one. I will be pre-ordering the system. I don't care what titles are launching with it. Like I'm getting that system day one, or
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get that system day one. They have some pretty smart people over there at NOA, and I never dealt with NCL, so I don't know what those conversations are like. But I've always had the impression that like one of the few things that NCL looked to NOA for was some of this type of strategy of like
Yeah.
how do we handle the not so much the launch marketing, but like making sure that the retail infrastructure is in place, and that
Hmm.
there's a sound plan, and um, I'm sure you guys know better than anybody. If NCL is anything, like they're pretty confident in what they know and what they think they know, and so if they're looking for input, that says a lot.
Yeah, it's so
And,
true.
and
And NOA is Nintendo's biggest market, and
mhm,
they have such a different landscape in the other global markets in terms of retail. And I remember seeing NCL come to NOA a lot for that level of expertise. Like, every single time they would come to the US, they would insist on doing these store visits, and
mhm.
going to the retailers and doing all this research like on the ground. Like, they were extremely like interested, and I think they saw a lot of value in that. So hopefully they're taking all that
I'm sure they
data,
are. Yeah,
yeah, and
I'm
then
sure they
making
are,
yeah
and
making it a good
yeah,
launch for us.
yeah. And I think Reggie played a big part in
Hmm.
in why they had that view. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I Nintendo had done a good job prior to Reggie, but I think like the roads that he built between NOA and NCL, they made a big difference,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
yeah, I'm sure that they continue to do. So
Yeah, Reggie has to get a pre-order like the rest of us.
I know, like,
I actually don't
tells
think that's
me
true.
like, yeah,
Maybe he might get a
I
hookup.
don't know about that. Yeah.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Sean. This was so informative and so fun to catch up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, great. I mean, I happy to come back anytime. Like it was a
Awesome.
blast for me as well. Hopefully your audience finds it interesting.
Oh, they will. Yeah.
It's I do feel lucky because when I was working for that canned food company, nobody was interested in what I did, and so then to do it at a place like Nintendo, it's like, okay, well, this is a lot more interesting. I'm still not
Yeah.
sure. Like, it still surprises me sometimes that like people are going to tune into a podcast to hear about it. Like, I find it interesting, and so like I'm glad that you did, and I hope your audience does as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This is great.
Yeah, we're back. Whoa.
Whoa.
That was great.
Wow. Truth bombs have been dropped. Forget the Schreier bombs. Let's talk
Oh,
about Sean bombs.
Sean bombs.
I'm so glad that we sat down and had this conversation with Sean, because we worked with Sean for a long time at Nintendo, and we were in some of those meetings with retail. We were in a lot of like big marketing meetings together. But I have to be honest, I honestly never exactly knew what the heck they were doing.
You weren't paying attention, unfortunately.
I was busy with my own stuff.
You were doodling in that notebook, as you were known to do. Yes,
I was doodling, but I was also like, I only paid attention to the things that I needed to pay attention to. You know what I mean? Like, because you don't have the capacity to pay attention to everything. But it's actually, I was like, you have a boring job. It's like, no, he has actually a very interesting job. So yeah, I learned a lot from Sean.
Yes, and I'm just so glad. Again, like there's so many like rumors, things that are people like making assumptions, like, oh, well, this must be true. It's like it's nice that we can just clearly put it out there of like, yes, this is true. No, this is not true.
Right.
The definitive word from somebody who actually knows.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. And the stuff that he was saying about Amazon really cracked me up. That was hilarious. I can't even.
Yes.
It's so funny.
Let's move on to the games we're playing. We got some new stuff this week. I've been playing Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
You finally got the name right.
That title is a mouthful. Well, I wrote it down because it's so long.
Very carefully, yes.
Yes, so this is a game that we checked out at TGS a couple months ago when we were there.
This game.
There is a demo out for this now, so you can check it out. This is kind of a side story of Infinite Wealth that came out last year. And first of all, like I'm just so impressed with this studio, like how rapidly they can put these games out. Like every year, they seem to have like a big new release that are all like super well done. Kind of grows from the last one. It's not like they're just kind of like redoing the same sort of thing. In this case, it is using a lot of the Hawaii locale from the last game, but there's a lot here that is really new.
Yeah.
And this game is, putting the focus on another character that's not Kiryu or Ichiban. It's Majima this time.
The guy with the eye patch.
Yes, who you've probably seen, even if you're only a little bit familiar with it. And it's got this kind of interesting pirate theme, which going into it, I was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out on it, because it's like, well, pirates are cool. Like, that's fun. But like, I was just questioning, like, well, how does that fit in with kind of the more realistic elements of this series?
Yeah.
Like you're literally on like a pirate ship going around wearing the pirate's hat, shooting cannons and stuff.
It could read a little cheesy if not done right. And like we played other sort of spin-offy types of Yakuza games before. Like we played Ishin last year. And that one like made a little bit more sense because it was in like Japan, like old Japan, where these games are typically set. But this one is set in such a different kind of locale with a different theme.
Right. And this is kind of, they give you a specific point in time where this game happens. It's like mid 2024. And I need to actually go back and check kind of the timeline of Infinite Wealth to know where exactly this happens. But I think like you could piece together the storylines of the two games and they would have some degree of overlap because they are talking about. So basically, Majima washes up on this island. It's not one of the main Hawaiian islands. It's one of these like random islands where there's like 100 people living on it, and he's lost his memory. And a great video game trope. He has lost his memory, and he's like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And all the people are like, well, they were shipping Yakuza to this island in Hawaii, which is the storyline of Infinite Wealth.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, well, I must have been a part of that. So I need to get to that island. That's kind of where it begins. And you befriend this little kid who helps you on the island, who I guess like his dad, who seems to have some shady dealings. Like he set up this bar on this small island, and like this kid has like asthma or something. And he's like, we had to get out of the city. So we brought him here so that he could, live safely without having these asthma attacks. But again, he may have had his own reasons for doing that. And the kid's like, I really want to get off this island, but my dad won't let me. He's so overbearing. Like, I want to see the world. And at the same time, this island is being overrun by these pirates. And you kind of get some hints of like why they're pirates. Like they're coming from this other island where I guess they're into that kind of thing. But you sort of free them from the pirates. And the point that I just got to is I beat the captain of the pirate ship that had landed on this little island.
Yeah.
I'm now the captain of the ship, and we're about to set off into the ocean. And that's actually something that I'm really interested to see more of is
the ship, the sailing around part.
It does seem like there is some amount of like you on this boat, like doing stuff.
Okay.
It's not just like, take a cutscene to this other island and then you're on the ground. So I'm very interested to see how much they introduce of that, because that's obviously entirely new to the series and would be a big departure, but I'd be really interesting to see how that studio does it. On foot, so different from Infinite Wealth, this is not a turn-based game. This is a real-time action game.
Yeah, we've interacted with some of the gameplay already at TGS, and it was definitely like very action-based, very fast-paced, and you have those specials and stuff like that, which is kind of cool, but different than Infinite Wealth.
Much faster-paced than sort of the real-time combat of a lot of the Kiryu Yakuza games.
Yeah.
Feels almost like, like a character action game where you're kind of zipping around. Eventually you do get these other stances and other things that you can do. Right now I only have one, but it definitely feels really distinct and really fun. I got really just like sucked into the story like straight away. Like,
they're so good at that.
Yeah. I mean, they're able to do these stories that are ridiculous, but they have a lot of heart to them as well. Like you kind of like are really interested in this dynamic of this family of like, what is this father's like past? You kind of feel for this kid who wants to get off of this tiny island. There's the mystery around Majima of like, well, why did he wash up here? And what's going on with him? And, he's a dirtbag, but he's also got a heart of gold, as tends to be, the case with the characters in this game. So I played like the first 2 hours, but I was just immediately sucked into it. So we're at a time where there's like a lot of big games coming out. And I was like, well, I definitely want to check this game out, but I don't know how I'm going to prioritize it in terms of like, once Monster Hunter comes out, I'm interested in Avowed just came out. That looks really cool too. I don't know how I'm going to make time for that, but it's like, I might need to prioritize this game because early on, like it was really grabbing me.
Wow. Okay. I haven't started yet, but I'm excited to start tonight after I finish Metroid. Because I've been looking forward to this game, and I also had the same, like at this point I'll just play whatever Yakuza game comes out. I'm already in, like it doesn't matter. But for this one in particular, I was a little bit like, how are they going to do this? Like I like the Hawaii setting from Infinite Wealth. That was both our game of the years last year. I love Majima. I love to know more about his character. I think it's cool to do a spin-off game that is like based on someone other than Kiryu and Ichiban. So that's good. But I was a little bit like questioning like how is this pirate theme going to play out? Is it going to feel like a Yakuza game? Will it have like the cool like narrative parts of the Yakuza games that I really love and the characters that you really get like attached to in these games? So I'm glad to hear that seems to be the case. So that's awesome.
The game looks really good. Like I think it looks significantly better than Infinite Wealth. Even like I don't know again
how?
like I don't know how they did this in just like a year. Like it's been a year since the last game came out. Like those games always like up close. The character models look great, but there's just another level of detail. The environments look better, I think. All of it, it's an ocean. You're on the ocean. Like the water looks really nice.
Oh, nice water.
So they've just been able to like take that up a notch. And one thing that I think you will appreciate. There was a cutscene once you get the pirate ship and you're on the water. There's like a musical-esque sequence that happens
like a shanty
it's like from a musical that I think
like
you
a
will
well-known musical.
Just experience it for yourself, but it's like as if this game was a musical, which is not really my thing, but I thought of you because I know you like that.
That sounds like fun.
Yes, exactly.
Is anyone naked yet?
Well, I did want to ask you to rank the attractiveness of Majima, Kiryu, and Ichiban. Because at the start of this game, Majima washes up on the island wearing
naked?
Leather pants, leather gloves, and the eye patch, which is an interesting combination.
Shirtless.
Oh, absolutely shirtless. Yeah, I mean, he's shirtless for the first like 90 minutes. You don't know. So he's not worried about getting a shirt. Yeah.
He's pretty hot, yeah. I would say Kiryu obviously is like the hottest person ever in like all video games. So Kiryu's number one. I would say Majima might be second. He's got like the bad boy look, like you want to ride the back of the Harley with Majima. Ichiban, if he didn't have the insane hair, would be hotter.
You see him at the start of that game where he's got like the slick backed hair. He's living a straight life now,
But that still look kind of. His face is not the best. Nice body, but the face is not like anything to write home about. But Majima is very attractive, and like, yes, I do like the whole bad boy quality, and he's like crazy, and like in the other games, he's like he's just insane. Like he does like insane stuff. He's very like he has a lot of like flourish, when he's fighting, and he comes off as like this unhinged character. So. And you don't really see him like for long stretches of time in other Yakuza games. So I'm kind of excited to like, he can't always be unhinged. There has to be moments where he's like, like he's just like calm. So yeah, I want to see that side of him for sure.
The last thing I'll say, like this game feels like big in scope. Like you might think like, oh, it's a side game. Like it's going to be really small. Like I don't know yet what the final playtime of this game is. Yeah. They've said it will be shorter than Infinite Wealth, but
obviously,
they're setting up like all these systems. Like plant these crops and cook this food, and you get these like little pets that are really cute.
Ooh.
Like the kid that you've befriended somehow has a baby tiger as a pet. And everybody's like, that's a tiger. He's like, no, that's just a cat. And it's really cute.
Oh my goodness.
And the tiger will sometimes like bring you items and even like help you in battle.
But it's not going to get hurt, right?
But you can like feed it. Like there's just a lot of these other little systems that like they didn't have to put into this game if they wanted to make the scope smaller. Like you have befriended a chicken once again.
Oh, I love a chicken.
You locked eyes with a chicken and fell in love with a chicken.
Of course.
In the
chicken
first
is very
hour.
important in Hawaii.
Yes. So there's just a lot going on in this game, and I love it. So
the tiger doesn't get hurt in the battle, does it?
No, the tiger's fine.
Goodness.
The tiger's totally fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
They don't have to do this.
Don't sleep on this game. This is what I'm saying. Do not sleep on this game.
They always do this. Like in Infinite Wealth, remember how many side things that they put in this game?
Oh, yeah.
Like the crazy taxi mini games, the gross Animal Crossing island thing.
And I'm not even on like proper Hawaiian turf yet. So once
who knows what else?
I'm sure it'll open up like to a huge degree.
The studio is so amazing that they can not only like make these games at this pace, but it feels like they never skimp on the depth of it. So kudos to them. Amazing stuff. I cannot wait. I'm gonna hold tight to my pirate money when I play this game. I'm so excited.
Oh, our pirate money. We need to get that. We need to get that out if you haven't spent it somewhere.
Why would I spend it anymore?
I don't know. Trying to pass this off in the shops all around town. Yeah, this is good. This is cool.
My doubloons.
Let's hear about your latest escapades in Elden Ring.
Well, I think
because it sounds like you're getting real close.
I think I'm there, actually. We have decided, even though you're trying to weasel your way out of this, for me to maybe play this game for one of our gameplay videos.
I think this is great. What are you talking about?
No, you were like, how can you, what are you going to blame me? Blah, blah, blah.
Well, I am worried that you are going to blame me for trying to talk to you, or like, is this going to be our first completely silent?
No, you can talk to me.
And this is like a high stress situation.
I might curse. You might have to bleep myself.
Okay.
I curse a lot when I play this game because it's very high stress.
All right.
Okay, so I have now basically completed all of the things I needed to do. I did go back, so I did get to the last dungeon, basically, like I was talking about a few weeks ago, where you do have these 2 last bosses. I did learn that you fight this first boss, the second to last boss, and then you do get a save point, so that's good, because I remember that was not the case with Elden Ring when you had to fight 2 bosses in succession, which was, oh my god, that was brutal. So you do get a save point after the second to last boss, which is great. I basically did the whole dungeon, got all the save points. I'm at the part where, like, literally that second to last boss started to like talk to me. There was like dialogue, and I was like, oh my god, I'll leave, because I didn't want to trigger the cutscene before we record. So I went back and I looked up a few like optional bosses to do. I was missing only a few because I had just done them in my normal exploration, but one of them is the Erdtree avatar was one of the optional bosses I did, which is like this disgusting looking giant sunflower. Don't ask why. It's gross. So the Erdtree fragments is like a big part of the DLC. And basically you're like collecting these along the way, and you really need those because those are the only things that are like augmenting your power to be able to stack up to the difficulty of the DLC. I think there's 20 total. I don't have every, I think I have like 17. So I'm missing
there's something
3.
you can do.
So I might, that's what I was thinking. I was going to go back and just like look up where the last 3 are to see if I can just get those and just max that out. You also get these Ashes of War, these other like little like augmenty things that you can get to like help you. So there's a couple of things I can do there. I did continue my power leveling. So now I'm level 191. I think I'm going to get to 200.
Is there a level cap?
Oh no. There's a cap on the when you level up like your intelligence or whatever. Sure. That cap is 99. And I've like, this is like such a nerdy thing, but I've never hit a level cap before. Like I've never leveled up a character so much that it's hit a level cap. And I was just like messing. I know this is not the best specs and I don't care. Like, come at me if you're like, oh, you just wasted your points on something dumb. But I just really want, because I'm an intelligence mage, like full intelligence. And I was like, I just really want 99 intel. Like, I don't care if this is like the scaling. Like, I don't care if the scaling of it doesn't make sense for you to go up to 99. I just wanted it.
Well, you might care if you can't beat this boss.
I mean, I might care, then I can respect whatever. But like, I'm really powerful at level 99, like, or like at 99 intel. Like, one hit is like 5,000 damage. So, wow. Come at me, Radon, whatever. Yeah, and I did want, like, I don't care. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, you're gonna spoil yourself in the last boss. Like, you don't want to be surprised. I'm like, no, I want to learn like everything I can.
Is there any point in leaving the DLC and doing stuff you haven't done in the base game?
You probably could get some like weapons or things to level up your like summons and stuff, like your like ghost glovewort flowers. You could probably do that. I don't know. I kind of don't want to.
So not really.
I kind of don't want to. I'm like, feel like I've left that world. I'm like,
I
okay
see.
There. You know,
I see.
I guess I never beat Melania.
Oh, well, there you go. That could be a good one. It could be a good warm up.
I don't want to.
Why?
I don't know.
Scared?
Maybe if I do it now, I'll be so high level that would be easy. I don't know.
Yeah, you could just like stomp Melania.
Could be like that one guy, like one shot her.
Let me solo her.
Let me solo her.
Yeah.
I can let me solo Melania.
That could be. You could be you.
Okay, now you've convinced me. Now maybe I should look up how to do it.
Because we're at least a couple days out of being able to do this. So
yeah. And
might as well hone your skills.
The storylines are connected. The Melania and the. I can still do it, right? Like, it didn't lock me out of it, did it? No.
Oh.
Right? Sometimes there's weird stuff about. Like,
all right.
Who
What's
knows?
something for you to look into?
Anyhow, I am so excited to try. I've watched a whole bunch of videos that like, like boss guides basically on how to, how to do it, and like got a little sense of like what the different attacks are and how to like dodge the really like devastating stuff. In my quest to get to level 200, I think I'm just gonna dump all the points into health and like just have like
Couldn't
more.
hurt.
Just take the hits if you need to take the hit, because I'm not great at the dodging. Like I'm okay. Like once I learn the pattern, like I'm okay. But it's probably going to be a couple of tries. But it would be sad if I failed in the video. Like I don't want to fail, so I'm trying to like set myself up for success. But it's really good. It's really fun. But yeah, maybe I should go back and beat Melania. I don't know.
We have more Elden Ring in the news, and I want to get your thoughts on that. One more game that we want to talk about, though. I have been playing the demo, which is not yet out, for Demon Tides, which is the follow-up to Demon's Turf, which is this indie 3D platformer, which I started playing a couple months ago. And I've had a few conversations with the developer since then, and he sent me a code for this demo, which is, I believe, coming out soon, but not yet. I'm playing it. I think it's just a Steam release for now. And it's really good. I got to say, like, this is a significant, like almost to a shocking degree, step up in the presentation for this game and for this series.
Okay.
The previous game, it kind of had like a Paper Mario kind of style to it, where your character looked like a flat, just like a flat thing running through this 3D world. And it was a cool aesthetic for that game, and it worked, but it was definitely a bit more limited. Mm-hmm. Now they're using these very detailed, fully 3D models. And again, like it's shocking, like how much the visuals for this game are a step above the last game. Like I was shocked. It just looks that good. And like the last game was on the Switch. Like I think this game's going to have to be on the Switch too, because I don't think the original Switch can handle like how nice and detailed these graphics are. It's a really good evolution of what the last game was. So it's still a 3D platformer, but now it has kind of this like ocean thematic to it, which is, the tides.
Oh, the tides.
The tides. So the first part of the demo, it's kind of like a tutorial-y thing in this, large but pretty self-contained area. So, one of the things that you could do before was like you could sort of transform. So when you do a double jump, you would transform into this sort of bat thing and kind of hover and come down. They've added, I think this is an entirely new transformation where you turn into, they call it a snake. It looks like a fish to me, but when you're in the water, because there's a lot of water, and you can swim really fast when you are the quote snake.
Is it scary?
No. It looks like a fish. It looks like a fish to me.
That's not.
Or maybe like an eel, but it's not gross. So you can swim around there really fast. This has always felt very inspired by like Mario 64, just like the move set of what you can do, and kind of the depth of the moves that are there. So I finished that first part of the demo, which is this kind of more tutorial-y thing. And then they just drop you off in like the middle of the ocean, and they're like, "Oh, why don't you go off to, these oil rigs over there?" And you like literally swim for like 15 seconds to get out there. So it has a very like Bowser's Fury kind of feel to it, where again, like you're in this big body. Like that was the closest comparison that I could find as Bowser's Fury. And this is just the demo, so like I don't know to what extent the whole game is going to be like that open, but I was really surprised that like there was no like select in a menu like, oh, go here. There was no loading screens. Like I just went there, and then there was all this other stuff that I could do there. So I came away really impressed with this. Like they have really built on what was already like a really good, strong game, and they've made a lot of enhancements. So I think this game could surprise some people. Like I know that first game like had a pretty dedicated fan base, but like it kind of feels like I don't know, like depending on where this comes out in the Switch 2, like if it's at that time where people are like really scouring the eShop, or like, oh, what's a cool thing that I can find in the eShop because I want to get something in the eShop. I want to try out this new eShop.
Perfect.
Like, it could be like a real like breakout hit. So, like, I don't know, like kind of between this and Ruffy and the Riverside, like I'm really happy with this kind of resurgence.
Yeah, 3D platformers.
Indie 3D platformers. Like these games are very different, but they're both like really, really good. So awesome. I'm pretty hyped at this.
It was like a long drought of not seeing a lot of 3D platformers in that style at all, and so it's kind of nice that there's always a trend for the year. Like I feel like last year's trend was like sort of the Wario-esque 2D platformer, like the really action, like the heavy feeling 2D platformers. Maybe this year's trend is like 3D platformers from indie studios. So we'll see. Yeah,
love it. It's I mean, people are eager for these, coming off of Astrobot. So it seems like a great time for that to happen. And who knows, maybe eventually we'll have a big new 3D Mario platformer to talk about too.
Right? That would be great. That would be such a wow.
Yeah. Yes. Let's move on to the news. And we were unable to react to the state of play last week because I was incapacitated.
You were mute.
Due to the flu. So why don't we go through some of that here? I got a big long list of things. You stop me if there's something you want to talk about here. Mm-hmm. Borderlands 4's coming out September 23rd. They're getting a dedicated state of play for this game in spring. I thought that's interesting / maybe a reach. This was a very cringeworthy segment with the quote, the two Randys.
The two Randys, yeah.
Please don't do that again. Thank you very much. Dave the Diver's getting Like a Dragon, a crossover DLC that's coming out in April. New Shinobi game, Art of Vengeance, that's out in August. Days Gone Remastered, coming out April 25th.
Whatever.
Is there a fan base? Is there a significant fan base for Days Gone? I don't know.
It's like no one asked for this.
They may be a little bit desperate at this point.
Yeah, a little desperate.
Digimon Times. I thought the Digimon game looked pretty good.
It looked okay, actually. Yeah.
Looked a lot better than a Pokemon game. Coming out 2025. Stellar Blade, Goddess of Victory, Nikke DLCs coming out June. They're going for the back-to-back Bodhi, I think.
Oh yeah, the Bodhi. I was like, whoa! That last shot in the trailer, I was like, dang.
So are you familiar with Goddess of Victory, Nikke? Do you know what that is?
I don't.
So that's another game by the same studio. It's a mobile game. Gene Park
has educated you on
fellow sicko Gene Park has turned me onto this. So it's like a shooter, and it's these girls with these giant guns, and when the gun shoots, the butt like vibrates.
So it got jiggle physics.
Yes. Right. So that's what that is. So they're
something for everyone.
They're going for broke here.
Let's do it. Why not? The human body's a beautiful thing.
Dreams of Another, this is a new pixel jump game. It kind of had that like impressionist.
Yes. And
what did you think of this?
This was an interesting one. I thought it was kind of like, it was definitely different. And you're using a gun, but you're shooting to like open up new doors and like augment the environment. But it had a very like artsy, like MoMA kind of feel to it. Could be interesting.
It looks amazing, but having a gun, I was just kind of like, was there not some other? It literally just looks like a machine gun that the guy's holding.
AK, yeah. But I think it's supposed to be about PTSD, right?
Oh, is it? Okay, maybe I missed that in my haze.
I don't know. I'm making a conjecture here, but I thought it was about the storyline was about like wartime.
Okay,
stuff.
maybe
and that's why the gun exists.
All right.
And if that's the case, then that makes sense, right?
That would make more sense.
All right, yeah.
Did you ever play any of these pixel junk games back in the day?
I don't think I have. I don't think so.
It's a long time. It's like this was like a PS3
I don't think I
era thing. Like that was like a whole line of download like Pixel Junk Monsters, Pixel Junk Shooter. Those were really fun, but it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We mentioned this, the Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza demo, that's out now. Lost Soul aside, this looked like a Bayonetta game kind of through a different lens. Looked pretty cool. Like I don't really know much about I don't like who's making this or anything like that. Like it seemed to get a lot of people's attention though. It looked cool. That's out May 30th. Metal Gear Solid Delta, that's out August 28th. That is the date that leaked a couple weeks ago. I'm ready for that game. It feels like we've been hearing about that game for
a long time.
A long time.
Yeah.
So please just come on out.
What was with the little tease at the end?
Oh, Ape Escape.
Ape Escape. Yeah.
Yes.
Why was that there? Do you
So
know?
they had like a little like hidden Easter egg Ape Escape mini game in Metal Gear Solid 3.
Oh.
So they're kind of teasing like,
That's still
we're
there.
doing that.
Okay.
We're doing that again.
That's cute. That's
Yeah.
cute. I do like the little mashup of PlayStation IP. So
yeah, it was fun. It was cute. Anything short of them making an actual Ape Escape game, apparently. Onimusha, Way of the Sword. So I don't know if you knew this about this series, but they've integrated these real life actors into it.
I've seen this. Yes.
So Takeshi Tanashiro is kind of a Japan/Hong Kong actor who was in the first couple. Then they had Jean Reno from The Professional. And now they're using Toshiro Mifune, who is he passed away decades ago, but he's from Seven Samurai.
Okay.
And kind of that classic era of Akira Kurosawa films.
Yeah. Yes. This game looks incredible.
The game's coming out in 2026. I don't know, like some people were pointing this out. It's like, whenever we get into like the dead actor returns, their likeness returns, it's always kind of a weird place of like, is this what they would have wanted? Like,
it's almost like a fairy tale at that point, though, or like a historical fiction, where it's like you got someone like you got like someone playing like Henry the Henry the Eighth or something. Like it kind of feels like that long ago. It kind of feels more like that versus it like we're bringing so and so back as an AI projection in Fast and Furious.
All right, I guess if you're the Mifune estate, that's what you can tell yourself to cash this check. But
I feel like it's that if you tastefully treat it in that way, it's not that bad,
Onimusha's a series. I've actually never played an Onimusha game, but I remember like in the PS2 era, I would always look very closely. I was like, should I get one of these? Like they look cool, but there's something about them that is giving me pause. So I actually got they have a version of the first Onimusha game that's on Switch. I got that recently when it was on sale. I would like to play some of these games a little bit. I know MinMax just did a big playthrough of the first Onimusha game.
Yeah.
I would like to check this out before this new game comes out, just to see if it's something that I'm interested in. Yeah. And then they are doing a remastered version of Onimusha 2, and that's going to be out on May 23rd. And then finally, their big finale for this whole state of play was a new game from Housemarque called Saros, which is going to be out 2026. They were saying it's kind of building upon some of the mechanics from Returnal, which is a game that I did not play.
I did not play this game either. But did this game get a lot of critical acclaim?
Yeah, I think people liked it. That's another kind of roguelite sort of game.
Yeah.
I remember at the time, I think that game was priced at $70, and I was like, I don't know if I'm $70 interested in this game. Mm-hmm. So they said that they're going to have a gameplay reveal. This was just sort of more of a cinematic sort of trailer.
Yeah, this is all cinematic.
A gameplay reveal coming later in the year for this. So I will reserve judgment on this until I can actually see the game. But I was like, oh, all right. I will file that away in my brain and we'll revisit that later.
All right.
Thoughts on this state of play?
That was a little mid, to be honest.
I made this comment to you. Like it felt like the Game Awards to me, just in the way that they had paced everything. There was kind of like a breakneck pace where like nothing was getting more than
trailers.
90 seconds in it. I guess, looking at this list, like there's some good stuff here.
Yeah.
I'd say this is like kind of like maybe a B-level state of play. Nothing really like standing out, like no huge megaton. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have said this. I am once again a little concerned at the state of first-party output from Sony.
Yeah.
So we know Ghost of Yote. They've said that's this year. Great. Yeah. That'll be a huge
big one for them.
Game of the year quality game. But what else?
What else
is there? Like Days Gone. Okay.
They need smaller games, more smaller games, more more frequency, but more compact experiences.
Right.
To break up these AAA games. It's nothing new. Really, nothing new that we've been saying for almost 2-3 years now about Sony.
And then the big thing that people were rumoring going into this is these remastered God of War games.
I know.
Those were nowhere to be seen.
Nowhere to be seen.
So who knows about that?
And people shouting for Dark Souls. Just absolutely wailing.
Bloodborne 60 frames per second.
Wailing for Bloodborne.
Is becoming like...
Wailing for Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Rolling my eyes.
Yes. More Sony news, they have started to release 5 new Astrobot levels. So starting from last week, every week, they have 5 new levels that they're going to be releasing. Apparently, these are harder to test people's platforming skill, which is, I think, what people were kind of hoping for some of this post-game content. They all do also have special bots that you can collect, and they also have the sort of online time trial mode to it. So this is cool. Like, would you go back to play these?
For sure. Yeah. I went back to play that Christmas level. I like it when they do this.
Yeah.
This is fun. Like, this is a fun way to keep you going. And I'm sure, these levels will be harder, but it's not going to take you probably like, more than a couple hours to get through all of these levels. So it's a nice way to keep your attention on Astrobot and not forget about it completely without having to do too much. I love the names. Obviously, the March 13th Armored Hardcore one is going to be about
TikTok Shock, Thrust or Bust, Cockadoodle Doom, Hard to Bear, and Armored Hardcore.
Hardcore, you kind of get the sense of what that special bot's going to be.
Yeah, so the first one's out, and then the last one's out on March 13th. I think I'll wait until they're all out.
Yeah.
Because I
play them in succession.
I enjoyed that holiday level too, but it was like, I played it for 30 minutes. I was like, all right, I guess I'm putting down Astrobot again. It's like, kind of want to get back into a rhythm.
Yeah.
So I'll wait until all 5 are out.
You didn't 100% that game, did you? You have more bots.
I don't think I did. Yeah. Astrobot also won Game of the Year at
DICE?
DICE. And then I guess there's kind of one more big, well, there's always more award show, but there's the game kind of on its way to completing the sweep.
Yeah.
Of the Game of the Year
They
awards.
are sweeping it. Yeah, they definitely swept.
Last thing here. So we're back to Elden Ring. So Elden Ring Night Rain, we got a launch date for this. It is coming May 30th.
Mm-hmm.
And they're currently, or at this point, I'm not sure if it's still running now. They were running a beta for that last I'd heard was not going great. It was having some technical issues.
Yeah, I think there's some people in our community that have been accepted into the beta, so probably check in with them to see how they like the gameplay. And
the game's only $40, which very within reach. I am very curious to know your thoughts on this game as somebody who's currently deep back into Elden Ring, but I know when you've actually learned what this game was, you were a little bit turned off. Yeah, I think a lot of people were. I think it was definitely a different experience than what I was expecting. It is this more so survival game where you're doing some co-op, but the co-op is odd. It's either you play alone or you have to play with 3 people. It's not 2-player co-op. So if we wanted to play together, we have to find a third person to play with us, which is, why would you? That's very dated. That's a very dated approach to multiplayer, I think. Either 1 or 3. It seems weird, right? Why would you do that? Maybe it's a balancing thing. Who knows? The other thing is that Miyazaki's not producing this one. So, okay. So, obviously he's kind of the genius behind the current Elden Ring games. Not to say that this is gonna fall apart without him kind of thing, but somebody with a very specific signature, you will notice it when it's missing. So I'm a little skeptical for sure about this. I don't think that anyone expected this to be another Shadow of the Erdtree level DLC to any stretch of the imagination. But my fear is is this going to be a step backwards for the series, or because it's so different and so, kind of out of the signature of what we all fell in love with Elden Ring for? Or is it a cool thing where it's oh, good on you for,
taking a risk and doing something, a very different style from the thing that you know people love and will make you lots of money. So it could go either way. I'm a little skeptical, but I mean, I'm gonna play it, of course, and then I'll know. But yeah, it's very like, it's a little risky for sure for them.
Well, it's very different. Like I
It's
think,
very
like
different.
if you have like a hard, notion of what, like, oh, Elden Ring has to be this. Like I don't think it's going to be that, because like I've looked at some of the gameplay videos, because
Yeah.
people were doing previews for it this last week. Like it is extremely fast paced. Like you literally drop out of what looks like a battle bus, like out of
Yes.
Fortnite, to start these runs. So they're really like pushing the boundaries of what Elden Ring even is.
Right.
I'm open to it. I think I'll be taking a close look at reviews before I decide to dedicate 100 hours to this, though. But yeah, I mean, I applaud them for trying something different.
Yeah,
We'll see
exactly.
if it works out, though.
Exactly.
All right, that's the news. Let's get into some questions from our community.
Oh boy. Let's start with a question from Jester1701. Hello, you guys. You guys always say in your podcast that Nintendo is very protective of their brand and public image. If that's true, why is the eShop littered with thousands of shovelware and bad games? One would think if I want to protect my brand, I want people to associate positive experiences with it. I would curate the store with only good and reputable games. I guess even Nintendo stops caring about their image when they can earn a quick buck.
So yes, the eShop is a mess. It's kind of a tricky situation that they're in, though, where you can't fully, like, if it's an open shop, you can't fully, be the hand that like chooses, like, yes, you can get in, no, you can't. Like, and we've been in that era before. Like Nintendo has done that before, where for creative reasons, like actually good games were denied access to the eShop because it was like, oh, this is too mature, like this doesn't fit our brand image. And it's just kind of not a place that you want to be in. So if you want to run a shop like this, like you do kind of need to have it open to some extent. But this is like kind of what's happened as a result of the Switch being so popular, is that everybody wants to get on there. And you've seen people like really gaming the system of stuff that's like you said, it's like it's shovelware, it's slop. Like they're trying to get people's attention by gaming these sales to end up at the top of those those trackers that are putting things on there. So I think there's a lot more that they can do. I don't want them to full on, again, be that hand of God to say this game gets in, this game gets out. But I think in terms of like having some just like common sense guidelines, like all the games that use the 5-letter H word, like I continue to be baffled about why that is in there at all. I don't know why they don't have a guideline against something like that. Stuff that is like clearly ripping off other games has become more and more of a problem. That's something that they should figure out. And I do think that they can have, other sections of the eShop that's, like, fan picks or staff picks or something like that to help to elevate out of the full, sea of everything. But right now, and they kind of have that on the eShop now, but it's so slow and so terrible to slog through. Like you're not really incentivized to do any of those things. You kind of either are going to go straight for the thing, you're going to search for the thing that you want to get and get out, or you're just spending hours slogging through all of the junk. So this is one of the huge questions that they have to answer going into the Switch 2 is like, what are you doing with the eShop?
And they know this, they've been in an era before where their brand was associated with a lot of really bad shovelware, like in the DS era. That was also a problem, it was a little bit different because now with the eShop, like all the Switch owners just have that entire like library of whatever's in the eShop. They have it right in front of them. Whereas in the DS era, these physical games were harder to see every day, but you still had that same problem. And the Wii era too, where like it was just like, how many of the horse games can we get for this console? It was like really, really bad. I think the thing that Nintendo needs to do and focus on the most is less of like, being the the hand that comes down to prevent people from having games in the eShop, but more of the curator. They do a really poor job at curation. And yeah, and then I think the speed of the eShop definitely has something to do with your experience, like being able to sift through all of that. But they should take the curation part like a lot more seriously and just think of better ways to, to give you to help you narrow down what's in there. I don't think they do a good job of that right now at all. And it feels very disjointed from their other stuff too. Like they have like their Switch news, they have their, their newsletter that comes out to people that have subscribed, like their NSO, like customers and stuff like that. Like they don't do anything around like making the eShop feel like it's part of that communication. Like it just feels like this thing that everyone has shoved to the corner, and they know it's bad, but they have no ways of addressing it. So I do hope that they take some time to do that for Switch 2, because I mean all of the stuff is just going to carry over, and you're going to have this library of bad stuff immediately in the Switch 2 eShop. So,
and I hope they don't, come to the conclusion that they do sometimes, which is like, oh, well, the community does this itself, so we don't need to do it. Like the community already sifts through everything, and there's so many YouTubers who are doing things like eShop, hidden gems, that's covered. Like they're doing a great job with that, so we don't need to expend any resources trying to do it. Like there are occasionally times where it's like I can get on board with that logic, but in this case, like, no, this is so important to you, like you need to do more.
Totally. All right. Next question is from Phantom Cookie. Hey, Kit and Krysta, since listening to the question in your last podcast about Doug Bowser, I've been wondering how you think things would have been different at Nintendo had Reggie never chosen to retire. Do you think Reggie would have played a similar role as he always had, or would have been toned down like what we've been getting from Doug Bowser? Or are there other impacts that you think had half a decade of Reggie may have had on Nintendo? Ooh, hypothetical.
It's an interesting what if. I think we all saw it. Like when Mr. Iwata passed away, things really did change, and Reggie was still with the company for, let's see, like 4-ish more years after that.
Yeah.
But there was kind of a slow evolution of the company that I think kind of, led Reggie to want to make that decision where he's like, I've accomplished everything that I want to here. I'm good. And, it was just kind of a different regime changes, different people that he personally was interacting with who had these different philosophies about how, Nintendo employees should be spotlighted, and especially non-developers as well. Reggie's a great, incredible spokesperson, but he's not a developer. So there's kind of a limit to the things that he's, from their perspective, best capable to speak on. I'm not sure that there would have. I still think he would have wanted to retire because I think that would have made his life harder. We saw him fighting on our behalf for initiatives that we wanted to make happen at NOA. Those conversations just got harder and harder, and there was more and more pushback as the years went on, and as those people in Japan kind of got more entrenched and got more comfortable in their roles, got more comfortable, frankly, pushing back on us. So I think he made the right decision, because I think it would have just been this kind of slow tightening as happened of everything. And, Reggie would have been Reggie. He would have continued to do it, but it just becomes more of a drag on a person. Yeah. So I just don't think it's something that he would have enjoyed in the same way that he did in the past.
Yeah. And we've talked about this a lot as well. And Reggie definitely talked about this too, is like the effectiveness of your job and the things that you can do is with a company like Nintendo that has a parent company like Nintendo of Japan is really based on relationships and like years and years, 10, 20 years of honing those relationships, slowly gaining trust from those relationships. And like that process is just, there's nothing you can do to speed that along. It's just time and circumstance. When with Reggie and Mr. Iwata, like it was perfect time and circumstance because they were working with in the era of Wii U, for example, where the company had a mentality and mindset of taking more risks, and Reggie and Mr. Wada were able to hone that relationship of trust like through that. And he's talked about this, and we have too. It's like when that Mr. Wada era ended and the new sort of NCL regime took over, like you have to rebuild all of those relationships. And as much, as fun and interesting as it is to keep working at Nintendo, like rebuilding those relationships is really a lot of work. It's like a daily sort of struggle to continue to do that. It can be very exhausting. And I don't think he was interested in doing that. And we were certainly not interested in doing that either, because that's kind of why we left too. It's like, I'm kind of like done, it's exhausting to do this. And I don't want to wait another 20 years before I can do something that I want to do, or get an initiative across the line that I really feel passionate about. Like, I don't have 20 years. Reggie certainly didn't have 20 years. He's like, I want to retire and enjoy my life. Like, I don't want to have to like do this, slog this through this every day, So yeah, I think that is sort of the position that the company was in at the time. And Doug, became the president in that circumstance. And he's doing what he can, but I think he's smart in a way where he's like, well, I'm not going to really like push on the things. I'm not going to fight a losing battle. I will not like stand on this hill to fight the losing battle. I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to pick my battles, and I'm going to just like ride it out. Like, I feel like he's really smart in the way that he's like taking, like positioning himself in this role. Like it feels different from Reggie because it is, but that's just the position that the company is in. And he's smart not to exhaust himself daily to fight a losing battle. So yeah, I think this is sort of the way things are now. And I don't see changes anytime soon. I think it's just going to be this way for the foreseeable future. All right, next question is from Cyberfox, Final Boss.
That's Aaron Hash, by the way. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Good morning, Kit and Krysta. While putting aside the strong various opinions on the Mercedes being in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and not knowing the full themes and gimmicks of Mario Kart 9 just yet, do you think the Mercedes deal was worth it enough for both sides to be interested in bringing cars back for Mario Kart 9? Maybe even bringing in some different models? Or is it possible another manufacturer was fascinated by this idea and approached Nintendo to have their cars in the game and said, like, maybe Toyota, since they seem to enjoy working with Nintendo, but if not them, who would you like to see? Or was this whole idea just or was this whole idea just too much over the last 10 years that this type of crossover is off the table? Thanks. Y'all have fun out there.
Yeah, I don't see this returning. And I know there are some people out there who like really do enjoy the Mercedes cars and think that like they look, they fit into the look of 8 and 8 Deluxe, and they think they're fun to drive. But you kind of have to know like the context of the timing, like when this happened, which was like the very, very much like darkest days of the Wii U, where they were just like fighting for any sort of relevance, any sort of attention, frankly, any sort of money. So I think they were just open to that sort of deal in a way that they are not going to be now, where it's like, yeah, like this game sold, 70 million copies. Like people love this. People are here for Mario Kart, for Mario and the karts. They're not here for a Mercedes. So that's what we're going to give them. You could, there could have been another envisioning of Mario Kart where it's like, oh, this is the new thing that we're going to do. They're driving all real cars.
Not
and
karts.
We're licensing not just Mercedes, but we're licensing, Ferraris. We're licensing every kind of Porsche, every car out there.
Oh my goodness.
That's like an alternate reality of Mario Kart. But no, I think that, they're going to have some cool gimmicks for this, but I think that they're like, yeah, we know what people are here for. Like we know why this sold 70 million copies and it ain't a Mercedes.
Yeah. I think also since that partnership with Mercedes, there's been a lot of sort of backtracking and very firm rules in place about mixing the real world with the game world. They really, really dislike that now. There were so many marketing initiatives that got totally just like thrown out the window, and you got yelled at because you possibly, how could you possibly suggest mixing the real world with the game world? That is absolutely unacceptable. We would never do that. And you would point out things like the Mercedes partnership. They're like, don't speak of that ever. Like, you're wrong. We hate you. So yeah, so anything that sort of confuses like the imaginary world of the Mario universe and the real world, they really dislike that now. So I can see that being sort of like a hard rule of like, we just don't do this anymore, and we'll never speak of that other thing again. All right, I think our next question is from Echo Ladare. Hey, Kit and Krysta, recently there have been plenty of beta tests for high-profile games like Monster Hunter Wilds and Elden Ring Night Rain. It's got me thinking if maybe for Switch 2, if Nintendo would also do a beta test for some of their games. Does Nintendo have an opinion on beta tests that prevents them from doing them like some of these other companies do? Or are they more than open to them and just haven't had the right game for a beta test? Thank you for your time.
So they have done some of these in the past, we should say. Like they haven't necessarily been positioned as beta tests, but like the Splatoon test fire, I think there was there the ARMS test punch.
Test punch, those are beta tests.
So there have been a couple of these that have been more positioned as like early access demos, online demos. But that really is like, they are truly betas, and they are, gathering a lot of data to make sure things work. And there were times where things didn't work. I remember, I think it was one of the first Splatoon 1 test fires, and the thing just didn't work like out of the gate. And it was like, oh, what do we do now?
We used to also do that thing where they would make us jump on during the test times so that people have people to play with. So be like, Krysta, you take, Sunday from 6 to 8, and then Kit take Friday from whatever, because they didn't know like if people would actually jump on to do the tests. But
I think another reason is like they are wary of people coming to conclusions about these games based on something that's not finished. Whereas, and I think that's kind of a trade-off that these other games are making, where it's like, we'll show you something that's not totally done, that doesn't totally work, in exchange for some very valuable data that's going to help this thing work once the entire world gets access to it. They kind of understand that that's a risk that they're taking, whereas Nintendo, I think, wants to go as far as they can to let people play something that in their view is perfect. And also, given like how high profile some of these things are, it's like I can understand it. Like if they did a beta for like some new Smash Brothers, like like here's my tier list on the beta here. Digital Foundry's doing this and this, and like that's just kind of annoying. It's like, this isn't done. Like, I don't want you to jump to all these conclusions. Like, we're just trying to make sure that this online works. Maybe they should make sure the online works.
Mario Kart, they should definitely beta test that.
I can understand why they have these trepidations about doing it, because people just come to a lot of conclusions about it that maybe they don't want.
And like, no matter what disclaimer you put on there, no matter what you say,
nobody cares.
No one cares. They're just gonna.
They're like, the game's broken.
They're gonna come to their and think about how critical people are of demos, and those are finished games. And it's like, even in that situation, a demo could give you a worse impression of the final game if you don't do that right. So it is risky in a way. But I feel like the part of it being like not done is the main thing that Nintendo's very wary about. All right, our next question is from Manjock. Hi, Kit and Krysta. The Switch 2 mouse gimmick got me thinking about how existing franchises can benefit from it. I think some examples people have brought up include Mario Maker, where it will be a QOL improvement to the level building experience, and Animal Crossing, where they can help with terraforming. I wonder if you both have any ideas on how the mouse can be used for Zelda, Kirby, Pokemon, Mario Kart, Pikmin, Metroid, Fire Emblem, etc. Maybe as a follow-up, how do you think the mouse gimmick could have helped you out in a Switch 1 game?
So the quick one that I just thought of was, in in Tears of the Kingdom, we had that terrible experience of like cycling through that menu of like, fusing items. Like what if instead of that, like there was just like a big, and you could kind of quickly mouse to the thing that you wanted to.
Right.
I think there's like a million different executions for this, and not all of them like you're building a game around. Some of them are just like small tweaks to make things a little less painful. Like it's a yes, shooters and RTS games, those have always benefited from a mouse, but I think there's a lot of small things that maybe are not as top of mind, but could go a long way of removing some of that friction.
I can see like all menus being done better with the addition of a mouse, right? Like any sort of like big menu, like in Fire Emblem, when you got to select your troops and you got to like get all your weapons and your stuff all ready to go, like in that pre-battle stage, like a mouse could be very helpful in those kinds of instances. And I do wonder though, like if there is an experience where you play the whole thing with the mouse control. Like I'm curious about that. That's the thing that I'm still not really like, I still haven't wrapped my head around a lot. Like I can see a lot of like quality of life improvements, like you say, for, games for pretty much like any game. I can see some kind of little like addition that using a mouse would like, oh, this is an easier way to do this, like very like complicated or like tedious thing in a game, like you said, like scrolling through all of the things that you can fuse your weapon to, or scrolling through this really long menu or something like that. But like, what is a game that could use the mouse control like for the entirety of the game? I mean, you say to yourself like, yes, this is the definitive way to control this game. I don't know if I have the answer to that.
Yeah, I still want to know, like, how does something like this work in a Pro controller? Obviously, we've seen, it in the Joy-Con itself, but I'm presuming they would bake that into a Switch 2 Pro controller. Right. And then also like the ease of kind of going in and out of that kind of play, like for that Zelda example, like you're probably not playing the whole game with a mouse. If it's just for something like that, like how easy is it to
switch
get in and out?
Forth, right?
Is that something you can actually do? So I remain super intrigued by this, but I also still have a lot of questions about it too.
Yeah, they need to show us exactly what this is going to be implemented in. Okay, our last question is for you from Silver6477. Kit, hope you're feeling better. I recently ordered a Steam Deck. I'm excited to take my extensive Steam library on the go and was wondering if you had any recommendations for games that are great on the deck. I prefer games that are not already available on Switch. Thanks in advance.
Have you ordered your Steam Deck yet, Krysta?
No.
Why not?
I don't know.
It's an interesting time to be getting a Steam Deck, because I think there are a lot of games that previously were on a Steam Deck and not on a Switch that are probably going to be on a Switch 2 soon enough. But if you already got an extensive Steam library, then I think there's no reason not to get one. So understanding the limitations here, you don't want things that are already on Switch. There's 3 things that I would call out as like, get these immediately if you don't already have them. Number 1, mini shoot adventures.
Oh, you're precious.
For the love of God, get mini shoot adventures. And I know Kyle is a Zelda fan, so I'm super curious about his
opinion of mini shoot
on this. Number 2, Hades 2 is still in early access.
Uh-huh.
I do think Hades 2 will eventually be on a Switch 2, but it's fun to kind of watch this process of this game slowly getting bigger and them tweaking it over time. Like that, I have this on Steam Deck, and it has been fun to watch that journey. And then the other one is UFO 50, which I'm surprised hasn't come out on other platforms yet. Again,
maybe they're waiting for a Switch 2
all 3 of these may just be waiting to be out on a Switch 2 and kind of get the benefit of that. But those are kind of the 3 like slam dunk ones that I would suggest.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if Silver6477 has a PlayStation or an Xbox, but like the 3 games that I would call out that run surprisingly well on a Steam Deck that you might not think so: Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate 3, and Cyberpunk. But again, I do expect all 3 of those to be on a Switch 2 soon enough.
Yeah.
They are frequently on sale on a Steam Deck though. So like you can get like Cyberpunk for like $20 from time to time. Whereas I don't know if they're going to be as active putting it on sale on a Switch too.
Totally.
But that is one of the great things, with the Steam Deck is like everything is very frequently on sale. So that's great. And then, Steam Next Fest, like that seems to get bigger and bigger. There's more and more games that are taking a part of that, like that Ruffy and the Riverside demo that we were talking about, that was part of it. If you're willing, again, to do a little poking around, like you can find kind of the next big game, because that has become quickly like one of the Steam best practices is to get your game a part of that. It's kind of become a best practice to the point where it's like overloaded with stuff. Like we might need a new best practice soon because
now
this is so jammed up.
So jammed, like can you find stuff in there?
Yeah.
But yeah.
What would it take for what hardware revision? What is it going to take for you to get a Steam Deck? Because I'm tired of asking.
I'm still unincentivized because like 90% of my games I can play on a PS5, an Xbox, or a Switch, and eventually within.
Can you play those 3 games that I just mentioned? Mini Shoot Adventures, Hades 2, and UFO 50.
We don't have to play those 3 games right now.
We don't have to play anything.
They're probably going to come out on a Switch 2 eventually.
Oh my gosh.
But you're right. I should probably get one or something.
So yes, there is the answer. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah. All right. Go for it. Our reminders.
Boy, don't forget to check us out at patreon.com/KitandKrysta, where for just a few dollars a month, you can support us and get all sorts of exclusive content, gameplay videos, spoiler casts, behind the scenes, bonus Q&As, exclusive meetups with us. Wow, the list just goes on, and early access to this podcast and all sort of great stuff, and join a wonderful community. You will not regret it.
Come watch me try to beat the Elden Ring process. Please. I need your support. I need your thoughts and prayers. We're also on the social. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Blue Sky, and Threads.
And if you're watching this video on YouTube, you can please subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, and leave us a comment if you can. And if you're listening on audio, you can also subscribe, give the podcast a 5-star rating, or leave a written review if you please. All of those things help us more than you might think.
Yes. All right. Shall we wrap it up by shouting out our wonderful Patreon community?
Let's do it.
Here we go with our final boss, Aaron Hash.
There he is.
There you go. That's much better. Last week when you pointed, it was like an awkward.
I've got practice now. That's why I come in here. I just come in here to pay tribute to Aaron Hash in this empty studio.
And also disinfect the studio.
Yes.
Superstars, here we go. Ben Eichhorn, Maru Mayhem, Eigenverse, Kiss My Flapjack, Mike Chin, Roy Eschke, Switching It Up, _, VGM Life, Link, the Hero of Angela Bycroft, Thomas O'Rourke. Take it away.
We got Kyle LaBeouf, Roberto Nieves, Frederick Ulf Conradson, Andrew Uhas, Chili, Simon, Krashuri, Master Discord, Ash, Ajay Kundlas, 40 Gig, Travis Torline, Echo Ledare, and That's So Linnell.
Wow. And here come the One Up Club, Aaron Burgundy, Ali Alejandro, Andy Peachy, Aristu, Astrodef, Awesome46, Axel, Bates, Ben GB, Big and Gamer with a Y, Brandon Cavapil, Brent Dennison, Brovac Novak, Bruce Dash, Bucky Flores, Cameron, Shadir, Chelly Squirrel, Crispy Saurus, Chris Galvin, Christopher Lay, Cosmic Titan 718, wow, Captain Alex, C. Roper 17, Dagda Leo, Dallas E, Daniel Phillips, Dachshund, Devi P, Doinko, Dre, Do Dad Life Tralick, Eccentric Tony, Elite Peach, Esparts 50, Furbound, Fernie and Just Forever, Fox Deploy, Funky Hand, Garth the Wolf, Gartooth, Jin Wolf, Guilty Phoenix 42, Handheld Gamer, Happy Sloth, I May Have Made a Mistake, Iris Marin, Jay Rando, Jack Hoving, Jameson Eisenberg, Joe Encarnacion, Jonathan Rowe, Jordan Hemmerly, Joshua Clements, Juji Fruit, Justin Lemminger, Jay Wolf, Callan CPU 57, Kawa 2796, Keith Kwan, Kevin Delane, Kilo Kibo, Christopia Party With Me, Kyle Gamer Barry Rookie, Kyle 325, Kyle Kretzer, Kyle R. Smith, Lazy Cat for Coffee, Leviahu, Lex, Lightwood, Link9898, and Lil Mikey. And take it away!
Here we go. We got Linko, Light Latte, Lit, Lucas Pico, Luigi53, Luna B, Lynn, Macho Potato, Mad Dog 5981, Magnificent Easy G and Callie Marie, Mario Man 392, Mark S, Marky Man 64, Maverick Nate, Mecha Dragon 101, Megan, May plus Leon, Michael Mazer, Michael Wong, Mikey, Mr. Ryan 07, Motomania, Mr. Andy Pong, Mr. Beans and Dip, MSM Poke Gamer, Mytran, Namey, Nasir, Naif E, Ninja 11, Noah-san, Angie, Patrice Millette, Paul Gale Network, Prime Factor, Prince Charmless, Punky, Raintech, R. Burns, Record Rumble, Ryuji Utsuhu Okou, Rob M, Rob O, Romsky 113, Rocks, Ryan Haas, Ryanetta, Sharif Jackson, Shinryu, Schmiggles, Slowbro, Snazzle, Spacey Poo, Spicy Munchkin, Starman DX, Steel Citron, Pseudo Priest, Tales of Link, Tandem, Tay120N64, Teal Fox 64, The Keggers, The Quiet One, The Shark Among Men, Thomas Alvarez, Three Rivers, Torcheeks, Totally Joe Ed, Totemaru, Trajawi, Trev Tendo 88, Tugs Puppy Bear, Tusku, Tyler Geis, Uncle Jungle, Victor MK, Video Game Stupid, Vidgmictor, Viridian, Virtual Bot, WG Grizzy, YU, Wicked Davy, Zelgroth, Zapati, Zero Link, and Zroid.
You sacrificed your voice.
That's how you know I'm getting better. That I can put myself out there and attempt something so audacious.
It sounded a little weak. It's a little weak.
I'm getting back there. I gotta rebuild those muscles in my throat back up, or whatever the heck's in there.
Your poor throat.
Whatever's in there.
Oh, the phlegm causing you.
Goodbye, phlegm. Hello,
say.
Muscles. In my neck. Yes.
Ew. Like Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Exactly.
All right, we're going to wrap it up so you can continue your great recovery. Thank you again to Sean for your expertise. Oh my gosh, I learned so much from Sean. Hope you guys did too. We will definitely have more Nintendo people back on the podcast in the coming weeks because we have lots more to pick their brains about, which is going to be fun. All right, we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.